says that, he could be referring to as like a wheel pops the track. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's not even a whole cart.
It's a very generalized.
Yes, exactly. Because he could be including, like I just said, not the whole train, obviously, but not even a whole cart. I mean, just like one little wheel can pop off and they derailment.
Well, that's technically what it's called.
And that's probably what he's going by. So,
exactly
he's doing that to minimize how bad this event is. I mean, it took him and Biden weeks to even mention it. I think Biden was almost 2 weeks before he even mentioned it. It was a while.
I just find it funny that they're refusing aid to FEMA until President Trump announced that he was going to go down to East Palestine, which I find very ironically funny that all of a sudden
that shook him into having to do something about it. Like, oh no, Trump's going there.
That a former president going there is a bigger problem than our real sitting president going there and doing something about it.
I don't know about real, but he is the sitting president.
He is the sitting president. We have to accept the fact that he is, regardless of how much control we think he has and doesn't have, he's still the sitting president. We did our part. We voted. Do we think it was fair? That's up in the air. Whatever. But the fact that a former president is doing more effort and putting more effort in than, let's just say the current president, speaks volumes of how much the current administration cares about you and I and the middle class in general.
Oh yeah, they claim to care about our health and ban plastic straws and all that stuff because for the environment, but then they go and do something like this and it's like, well,
where are all these environmental groups? Where's Greenpeace?
It's funny how I haven't.
Greta Thunberg at?
I haven't heard from Greta all past 2 weeks. Haven't heard a peep out of her. Haven't heard anything out of Greenpeace, Biden, and Al Gore. Where are these guys at? Nowhere to be heard from.
Crickets.
Because they only talk when it's something that can enrich them. If they have an opportunity to make money off of it, that's when they're interested. This is a disaster that they can't make money off of, and in fact, it actually is a detriment to their whole agenda. So it makes them look bad.
I find it funny how if you actually watch some videos that China has been reporting this since it happened, calling it the Chernobyl of the United States.
Well, they're just trying to make us look bad, of course, but it is kind of true because we did pretty much nuke our own country. Or we didn't do it, but those people did.
That chemical was used in World War I in biological warfare.
Yeah, it's a bioweapon.
It's a bioweapon. You're transporting a bioweapon that's used to make PVC pipe and all that stuff. I get it. But if you know that the boiling point of that chemical is 8 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you set it on fire...
8 degrees.
Yeah, the boiling point of that chemical is 8 degrees.
So what do they have to keep it at?
It has to be transported frozen.
Yeah, but then, I mean, even 8 degrees is frozen. So you're saying it has to be like well below freezing. Like it has to be in the negative temperatures.
Its boiling point, from what I read, is 8 degrees Fahrenheit.
I did not know that.
And I was reading about a person who did hazmat cleanup for 25 years. He said, I've never seen or anyone say burning a hazardous chemical.
Yeah, that is very odd.
Is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I've never seen them burn a chemical either. Usually it's, I mean, if it's...
They pump it.
They vacuum pump it into some kind of holding containers. But
you ever seen those trucks with big containers with the vacuums?
Yeah, but they don't...
That's what that is.
I mean, they might burn something like... If they spilled like gasoline or something like that, they might burn it. But they don't really ever burn a straight hazardous chemical. That, you know what I mean? Like, that's just odd. So whether it was in order to get the train tracks up and running as soon as possible,
that's definitely what it was,
or to try to hide the disaster, I don't know. But it's just
they just wanted to open the train tracks up because that's money.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I can't believe
it. They can't do anything. The money stops.
Well, I believe that because everything's about profits.
And if you want to really do some research on how to handle this kind of chemical, a couple years ago, the same chemical got spilled in New Jersey. And if you want to read how they clean that up versus how they clean this up, you'll see a very vast difference.
But don't you also think it's a very odd coincidence that Netflix filmed a movie...
White Noise?
White Noise, yes.
Yeah.
About... Hold on. About the exact same thing. About a train derailment carrying hazardous chemicals and its effects on the community. Now... If this movie was put on Netflix, and at any time, and it happened in like New York, Philadelphia, Texas, Los Angeles, anywhere else, you'd be like, okay, it's just a coincidence, no big deal. But what do you think when out of the whole world, this movie was filmed in East Palestine, Ohio? What is that? Palestine, how they say it? Oh, it's that weird. It doesn't matter. Isn't that the oddest thing? Isn't that very odd how they would film it in the exact town that it would happen in?
I find it ironic.
So now it makes you wonder. A lot of people use the term predictive programming, where the government would do these like psyops in order to get people to accept it. So it's not so so it'd be like, oh, they kind of like, if they're predisposed to it or they've seen it before, they accept it more. You know what I'm saying? Like they do like these drills like right before it happens. Just like with the C virus thing, Johns Hopkins did a whole pandemic test only a few months before it happened. You know what I mean? Like literally the exact same thing. Then with these mass school shootings, they'll literally do a school shooter drill at the exact high school or college that a real school shooting, whether it's a false flag or not, we don't know, happens only a week or two later. I mean, how many times is this going to keep repeating before the American people wake up to these false flag events? That these things happen in test mode or a drill, and then the real thing happens only weeks to a month later. I mean, you can't. At that point, it's like you call us a conspiracy theorist all you want. You just have your head buried in the sand. You're refusing to see the facts.
I mean, it's also it's a refusal of like looking into it yourself and doing your own research. It also falls on the individual as well.
Well, that's the problem. Is a lot of people don't. They live their lives and they don't want to watch the news or look at any news because it makes them like depressed or whatever.
That's fine.
And if they do pay attention to any news, they turn on the wrong thing. They turn on either their local news, which is most likely a complete liberal Democrat news station, or they turn on CNN, which is like the biggest bunch of lies you ever heard. So you have to do your own research and, most importantly, multiple sources. That's why they're so against us having multiple sources. They want everything from the mainstream media only because you can't challenge them. That's how they control the narrative. But you really have to look at.
Let's talk about the bigger picture then. Some of the biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the biggest companies that have money invested into Norfolk Southern, the railroad company that.
Yeah, who has the most stock in that?
Vanguard, BlackRock.
Oh.
Major companies, and then also those same companies also have investment in media. So you kind of see why we didn't hear about it for so long. I mean, how can you not know that a train derailed and find out 6 days later after they set it on fire that, oh, by the way, a train derailed and yeah, this happened. Everything's okay.
If you've been listening to it a while, you know one of my like top sayings is follow the money. Whenever you can't find an answer to something or you wonder why something strange is going on, just follow the money. That tells you everything. Ask yourself, who will profit from this and who will gain power from this? It's all about profits and power.
That town is toast. It's done. For at least.
It's sad. Think about that. Imagine someone our age who just put their life savings into a nice house. You know what I mean? A nice, I'm not sure of the exact property values there, but let's just say a $400,000 house, okay? You put your life savings into it, you spend the past 6 months rehabbing, cleaning it all up, getting all ready to go to live it, start a family in it, and then this happens. What happens now? Who pays for that? No one's going to, and the government's not going to give you any money. They might tell you, oh, here's some water bottles, deal with it. So do you want to raise your family in a toxic environment that might cause God knows what kind of diseases or cancers in the future? I mean, you've seen the video of the water coming up. I'm like,
the best video that I've seen when they had a guy from EPA show up down there, and they handed him a glass of tap water from there, and they're like, drink this. He was like, I won't. I was like, all right, well, there's your answer. There's your answer right there. Yeah. And the fact that NS only gave $25,000 in support, which is like what was $5 per person, is asinine. Is absolutely just, it shows how much that company cares.
Oh, they don't care.
They don't.
If they really care, the government really cared. When something this bad happens, where it's like a deadly chemical, whether it's the FEMA or the insurance companies or the company itself that did it. I understand you can't. Companies make mistakes, and you can't put it all on them because it'll put the company out of business. It'll put the company out of business, which could actually hurt all overall economy because it's transportation, and we need those. We need that to get goods around the country. But it's like, why should the American people have to pay for some greedy corporations' mistakes? You know what I mean? So it's like the government should have to come in and honestly and accurately and fairly, which is a hard thing for them to do, assess everyone's property values and buy them. Just outright buy them. Like, say you bought this property for $400,000 a year ago, we'll give you $430,000 for your property, and then you can relocate somewhere else. And they should quarantine off the whole city now, as messed up as it is, and say, you know what? If you lived in here, we're buying your property, and we're just going to make it open land for the next 25 years.
But
think about it.
That doesn't matter to them.
They're all about profits. This is people's health.
We Americans don't matter them. Let's just instead give thousands of dollars to illegal immigrants.
And Ukraine, but they don't care about us.
And send billions of dollars to Ukraine, who, mind you, Bill Gates said publicly is the most corrupt country in Europe.
Not that we value anything Bill Gates says, but that's actually an honest statement he once made. So, but I mean, like, think about it. Just $1 billion would buy a majority of the properties in like in just a 2-mile radius. I mean, they don't have to buy the whole town, but if they just took the first.
I would.
I'm saying, well, they should.
Messed up the whole town.
They should, but I mean, the watershed goes pretty far. But I mean, you have to at least think of the immediate 3 miles. I say at least 3 miles around the epicenter of the disaster. That should be blocked off. They should have to do testing, soil samples, all that stuff for the next couple of years, and no one should live there. I mean, it's sad, but it's like that's how it should be. I mean, it's just say you want to keep your property. Say you can't live here. You should move away from it for 3 years or a couple of years, and then say you can come back to your property when you want. But it should either have to pay to relocate them or something, because
East Palestine has become like Centralia in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Centralia, that's where these underground pockets of mines of coal, like a coal seam going through like the mountainous town. And what they did was years ago, it might have been the 70s or 80s. I'm not sure the exact years. Yeah, I don't know the exact years on this, but they used to use, after they would strip the ground and get the coal out, they would then put trash there. It's like a landfill. Well, somehow the landfill caught on fire. So whether it was batteries or something in the landfill started a fire, and the trash started burning. But the problem is, after the trash burnt itself out, it lit the coal seam on fire. And the coal seam can go underground for miles. So it just continued to slowly smolder and burn for like decades now. Decades it's been burning.
The whole
I mean,
abandoned.
Yeah, when you looked at it, you see videos of it and pictures of it, it looked like hell. Because like, there'd be just the ground would just be glowing red and smoking out of like cracks and stuff. And it wasn't just like, coal burning. It was coal and trash. So it was like toxic fumes. So they had to abandon the whole town. Everyone had to leave. And I think even like as far as close as like maybe like 5-6 years ago, there was like 1 or 2 residents that still lived, that refused to leave, and that did still live there. Which, I mean, they should have to do the same thing in Palestine, Ohio, is say, hey, everyone can leave, we'll help you leave, but if you want to stay, that's on you. If you want to risk your lives and health, that's on you. But they should have the option, because not everybody can say, you know what, I work this job, making this much money, now I want to move out of this location because it's been polluted. They don't have that option.
How about, I don't know if you can do this right now, but look up the side effects of vinyl chloride inhalation. And because they say the air is safe and the water is safe, we should really just Google what the side effects are of inhaling vinyl chloride.
I just saw it there. It just came up as first thing. It's the side effects.
Yeah.
And I just lost it. I typed something else.
It's listening to us.
Probably is.
All
right. So the first thing that type in vinyl chloride symptoms. I don't know why I typed in that, but symptoms. It says short-term exposure to vinyl chloride in the air can result in the irritation of the eyes, nose, throat, and lungs.
And every person that's
dizziness, sleepiness, headaches, nausea, and tingling in the arms and legs. So does that sound like something that's very benign to you? Yeah, it sounds like that's pretty serious.
Every person that's been there so far from like the non-mainstream media has reported the same thing.
And then on the National Cancer Institute, it says vinyl chloride is a cancer-causing substance. Not it might cause tingling and slight headaches. No, it says cancer causing. Known carcinogen. Not possible, but known carcinogen. I mean, we've seen the videos now on social media where people like show their water, their ponds, their lakes, their creeks. You throw something in it, and then immediately it drums up all that like rainbow oil
in the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an avid kayaker. I go kayaking like almost every other day in the summertime in the local creeks, and we know that the creeks have wastewater treatment plants dumping in them after the water's like 99.9% clean. I mean, even though the water looks somewhat clean, it always smells a little bit of sewage, and we know that. We know the risk. It smells like chlorine and actual sewage.
That's why you smell funny when you get out.
Yeah, but you know, okay, don't drink the water. If you have don't go in there with open cuts. Like don't, you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. You know better, but that's you worry about it. It's not that bad. You might have some fertilizer from the local farms and streets. And even oil from the roads rushing into that's what it is. It's runoff water. But that's like such a low amount. This now is such a high level. They burn that stuff. And when you burn that much of it, you know it's coming down.
Put it into perspective,
acid rain, it's all coming back down.
Perspective, they said it was roughly equivalent to 1 million tons.
I mean, if you see, if you look at that mushroom cloud, it is the size of like the same size of a mushroom cloud you would see from a nuclear bomb. Yeah. I mean, it's like huge. Yeah. It's not like this, a little campfire worth. No, that's a lot.
And listen, some of the mainstream media is finally catching on. Like the Daily Mail the other day posted like Biden said nothing's going, no one's saying anything, no help. FEMA's refusing to help because it's not,
because it doesn't help their agenda. It only hurts them. So they figure instead of even mentioning it, we'll just ignore it.
FEMA's reason was for denying aid was because the incident did not involve a tornado or a hurricane or flood.
They said it because that might be part of it. But what I heard was because it didn't involve the homes directly.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is
the homes were
FEMA only will help you if the train derails, goes off the track, and then hits your house. So if the train derails, hits your house, and destroys it, then they will help you. But if the train derails in your backyard and explodes and sends toxic chemicals that rain down on your house, you're on your own. But if it hits your house, they'll cover it. They'll help you out then. That's how messed up it is. It's like they shouldn't have those rigid guidelines. They should be like, that's what our guidelines usually are, but then we can like kind of like bend the rules, not really bend the rules, but like accept that there is anomalies like toxic rain coming down and be like, we'll help you now. Mm-hmm. Because that's once again, that's why the American people are losing their faith in government, because every turn we see, it's just more and more lies, deceit, and what's the word? Deflecting. Like they would ask Biden at the end of interviews, please comment on Palestine. And he's Palestine. He would just change the subject and walk away.
Or he'll walk away.
Yeah, like that's wrong, dude. People are really messed up because of this.
Me and a few of my other friends were talking about this even back in 2020, beginning of 2020. We were just like, look, like eventually at some point, their lies are going to catch up with them. Everything's going to be exposed.
They already are, and they just keep deflecting, and people just don't care.
Well,
sadly.
I think people are starting more to wake up.
I mean, look, they already came out. The CDC, I think, even came out and said it. But a bunch of other organizations came out and said that the whole mask thing was the biggest crock, the biggest lie. That wearing those. I mean, we know from the beginning that wearing those cloth masks didn't do anything. I mean, the only thing it might do is help keep a droplet. Someone sneezes, a droplet from getting into your system. But otherwise, I mean, there was like holes up here, down here. It's just not the same as a gas mask.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you something right now about the paper mask, and this is why I never wore one. I refused to wear it. I called them chin diapers for the longest time. Because you wear it once, it's useless. You would see people wear the same mask constantly, and you have bacteria coming out of your mouth. No matter how much you brush it, you have bacteria coming out of your mouth and breathing out. You are breathing out carbon dioxide, and it's not going out well through the mask. You're just inhaling it back in. And those masks, you touch your face once, that mask is useless. You touch the mask once after touching, I don't know, a piece of food, or grabbing a door handle.
Yeah, and then you touch
it.
Excuse me.
And then you touch the mask.
It's useless.
I
felt like I got more like, not like sick, but more like little like sinus infections and head colds from wearing the mask than not wearing it, because I would constantly be readjusting it, pinching it, itching it, and then breathing in the same bacteria over and over again. So it gave me like sinus infections because you're always touching everything, touching the mask. Then you're breathing the same air.
I'll be honest with you. I had a really bad sinus infection because I never wore a mask, but I had a really bad sinus infection in 2022, in like February, right around this time actually. I was down for like 3 weeks. And you know what the messed up thing is? When you look at the symptoms of a sinus infection and you look at the symptoms of COVID, they are identically similar. Very similar. Loss of taste or smell, congested sinuses, blah, 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 all this stuff. It's very similar.
I'm doing some research on this vinyl chloride. I'm trying to see how they make it.
It's a bioweapon.
It's produced from acetylene,
yeah,
which is like use it for a torch to melt metal.
Acetylene torches, yeah, I know.
Acetylene, hydrogen chloride,
Well, look at
and
muric acid.
No, not muric. Mercuric acid. No, sorry, mercuric chloride.
Why don't you look at the boiling point of it, and you'll be horrified. And they lit it on fire.
Hold on, I'm going through everything slowly before I can see everything. Fired an explosion hazard.
Yeah, see?
Flammability rating of 4, and it's classified as an IA flammable liquid by OSHA.
Yep.
The flash point of vinyl chloride is negative 108.4 Fahrenheit. What?
That's the flash point. We're talking about when it ignites.
Its flammable limits in air are lower. So, I say flash point isn't that refers to the point where when it gets to a certain temperature it just catches on fire. Isn't that what that means? Flash point?
Yeah.
So how could the flash point be at negative 108 degrees? So if that's the flash, if it explodes at 108 degrees, wouldn't it how do you get colder than that? Let me look it up. Let me go back and look up exactly.
Just look up the boiling point of vinyl chloride.
Yeah, but boiling is different though.
Well, same thing. You're heating it. Same thing.
Yeah, but flash point and boiling point are different. Boiling point is the point in which a liquid boils. A flash point is the point at which it ignites. So say you put oil. I'm making these numbers up. Say you put oil in a pot to like fry some chicken. Say the boiling point is like 200 degrees or something. I'm just making this up. Yeah. Well, the flash point might be like 290, 300, and that's the point where that oil will stop boiling and just spontaneously combust.
Yeah. Well, also vinyl chloride is transported.
I'm sure if I'm wrong, you're correcting me in the comments.
Vinyl chloride is transported in liquid form. It's not a solid.
All right. Oh snaps! Right. You're right. So it says the melting point is 244 degrees negative 244 degrees Fahrenheit. Boiling point 7.9 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, 8 degrees Fahrenheit is the boiling point, and they set it on fire.
So
1 million.
So you're telling
tons
so you
of that.
so
they
you
set it on fire.
Oh, it was 1 million tons.
It was 1 million metric tons. It was 300,000 gallons, which was equivalent to 100 metric tons.
300,000 gallons of it.
300,000 gallons. Which is
oh my
which
God,
was
there was that much. So how many tank? So if the train was like 20 cars long, was it like all the cars were the same thing?
20 cars were filled with vinyl chloride.
And they lit them all on fire.
Most of them, yeah. And
that's a bunch of man.
So yeah, listen.
So they had those cars had to have been refrigerated then.
They were cold. They were.
You know how hard it is. How do you keep it at 8 degrees? That's cold. I mean, way below 8 degrees. That's the boiling point.
You use what's it called? You ever see those trucks that try liquid nitrogen?
Yeah.
You cool it
so
that liquid nitrogen.
So that just tells you how volatile this dangerous chemical was. That if the boiling point is 8 degrees,
and then you set it on fire. Jeez. Yeah. And
so it's like I understand they did it for safety of the town, but then it goes back. It goes back to this. Now I don't wish any kind of harm on anyone or anything to happen to anyone in East Palestine. But it goes back to the whole the ethical debate of do you harm a few to save for the greater good? So they said, well, we don't want this thing to explode and send shrapnel out into the surrounding area. So now, if that exploded, I mean, it wouldn't have been like within seconds. It might have been within like an hour or two. They could have at least...
It was burning for 6 days.
They could have at least gave a warning and cleared out 2 or 3 miles of the town.
They did an evacuation.
Okay. So then they could say, you know what? We're going to leave this here and just see what happens. If they explode, they explode. But it might be a big explosion, but that's only if it does. And if it does, it'll only affect people within a couple miles, okay? So if anyone who hasn't yet evacuated, it would only affect those people. Which I mean, say, God forbid, it kills 10 people. That's better than polluting the whole entire environment around the whole world with this burning chemical. And having it rain down and go into watersheds and possibly infect thousands and thousands of people for years to come. You see what I'm saying? So now it comes back to like, so was it purely for profits to get rid of it, to get the trains back up and going?
Not to digress off topic much, but that's pretty much what the point of the nuclear sponge in America was. South Dakota, Colorado, where all the nuclear weapons are. That's been called since the Cold War the nuclear sponge of America, because they understand that those states are sacrificial states, because they understand that if a country will attack us, they want to attack our power to respond. They will avoid major cities and they will attack where the silos are, which is Colorado, South Dakota, Montana. Those are called,
because those
are called the nuclear sponge.
Yeah, because they want to shut down our opportunity to retaliate back.
Yeah.
I mean, then they would come after the cities and try to do harm to the people.
Yeah, but
mainly
but they were saying it's a sacrificial land.
Kind of, yeah.
You sacrifice
I got you.
Those states to protect the mass populace, but at this point it's kind of pointless, because the second biggest nuclear power has just as many nuclear weapons as we do, so it's kind of pointless now. So
in closing, I want to say, like, this is a horrible thing that happened, and thoughts and prayers go out to everyone affected by this. And
I hope you guys just keep raising your voices, making it an issue now.
That's the most important thing. Is don't give up. Don't let them
stand together.
Don't let these big corporations bully you into signing any kind of contracts or any kind of like what do they call it? Not contest,
NDAs.
No, it wasn't them. They tried to have them sign something already, like something we can't hold them liable, like a non-liability clause type of contracts. But regardless of that, I pray that you guys stay strong and find a way to get out of there now, so you at least don't breathe the stuff in. I mean, it might already be gone from the atmosphere, but the air might be fresh by now because it moves around. But it's the water now. So like once it comes back down, it affects your garden. You can't plant food. I mean, I don't want to grow anything in there. That's kind of scary.
There were already videos of people's chickens dying, and like just from the air.
Yeah, that's scary. So, hey, please leave your thoughts and what you guys are thinking down in the comments. We'll try to answer them and do a follow-up video. So until then, take care and God bless. Welcome and thank you for listening to the It Is What It Is podcast. Today we're going to be going over the current events, specifically the multiple train derailments going across all of America right now. And unless you're living under